What if the emotional baggage that you're carrying isn't just random pain, but it's written in your birth chart? If you've ever felt weighed down by past wounds, struggled to let go, or keep attracting the same toxic cycles, there's a reason for that. Your eighth house holds the key to what you've been holding on to, and more importantly, how to release it. Today, we're diving deep into the emotional baggage tied to your eighth house zodiac sign, showing what you subconsciously carry, why it's hard to let go, and how to finally free yourself. Your eighth house rules deep emotions, fears, trauma, power, and rebirth. This is the emotional baggage you inherit, the energy you absorb from others, and the lessons you're here to master. When you understand your eighth house sign, you don't just recognize your emotional patterns, you learn how to break free from them. This is the stuff that lingers, the fears, the wounds, and patterns that shape your life without you even realizing it. But the moment you unlock your eighth house, you reclaim your power. Your emotional baggage isn't a life sentence, it's a lesson. And when you learn how to release it, you don't just heal, you transform. So look up your eighth house sign. And if your eighth house is in more than one sign, such as using whole signs versus placidus, be sure to listen for both, as multiple signs can influence your life equally. So let's dive in.
Having your eighth house in Aries brings a unique emotional struggle. The fear of losing independence and deep emotional bonds, and the tendency to fight transformation rather than flow with it. While Aries energy is naturally bold, independent, and action driven, the eighth house forces you to confront deep emotional wounds tied to control, impulsivity, and resistance to vulnerability. Your biggest challenge revolves around learning to balance personal power with emotional depth and allowing yourself to transform without resistance. The emotional baggage you carry can be around fear of losing control in deep emotional experiences. You instinctively want to lead, direct, and take charge, making it difficult to surrender to the unknown aspects of emotional transformation. You may also carry emotional impulsiveness, so you may react quickly to emotions, either by suppressing them through action or expressing them in bursts of anger or frustration rather than processing them fully. You may also carry struggles with trust and intimacy. Deep down, you may fear that allowing yourself to be vulnerable means losing your strength or autonomy. You may also carry a fear of being weakened by emotions. You may have learned to associate deep emotional expression with weakness, passivity, or a loss of control. And you may also carry the tendency to fight transformation rather than flow with it. Aries is a warrior, but the eighth house requires surrender and trust in the process. This creates inner resistance to letting go of control and trusting deep emotional shifts. Aries is an action-oriented energy, and when challenges arise, your instinct is to push forward, fight, or take immediate action. But the eighth house requires patience, emotional stillness, and surrender to deep transformation, which can feel frustrating or uncomfortable for Aries energy. This can manifest in your life in several ways. In relationships, you may struggle with emotional vulnerability, preferring to keep things light, fun, and independent rather than deeply intertwined. There's also a tendency to push away emotional intensity or conflict rather than sit with it and work through it. You may attract strong-willed or dominant partners, leading to power struggles rather than emotional intimacy. When it comes to money, you may have an impulsive approach to financial matters, especially when it comes to shared finances, debts, or investments. There can be a need for financial independence, making it difficult to trust others with money. And you might avoid long-term financial commitments out of fear of being restricted or dependent. In personal transformation, you may often resist deep emotional change, preferring quick solutions or immediate action rather than allowing yourself to fully process emotions. You may rush into healing, expecting fast results rather than allowing deep transformation to unfold naturally. The eighth house requires surrender to endings and rebirth, but Aries energy prefers to force change rather than flow with it. Regarding your fears and subconscious patterns, you may have a fear of being controlled or emotionally overpowered. You may subconsciously avoid deep emotional bonds that require surrender. You may have a fear of being seen as weak, so you may associate emotions like sadness, grief, or fear with loss of power rather than a necessary part of transformation. And you may also carry struggles with letting go and allowing emotional shifts to unfold on their own rather than forcing an outcome. Aries energy wants to take action immediately, but the eighth house demands emotional depth, surrender, and trust in transformation. This inner conflict can create impulsivity, avoidance of deep healing, or resistance to emotional vulnerability. Now, to release and transform this energy, the first step is to learn to trust the process of emotional transformation. Not every challenge needs a quick fix. Sometimes healing takes time. Instead of forcing solutions, allow yourself to sit with emotions before taking action. Practice trusting the unknown rather than trying to control every emotional shift. Next is to redefine vulnerability as strength. Being emotionally open isn't a weakness. It's a deeper form of courage. Start allowing yourself to express emotions without filtering them through anger, frustration, or impatience. Recognize that true power comes from emotional authenticity, not avoidance. Next is to let go of the need to win at emotional growth. Healing isn't a competition. It's not about being the fastest or strongest. Allow yourself to experience the depth of emotions rather than rushing through them. Remind yourself, you don't need to be in control all the time to be strong. Next is to accept that not every battle needs to be fought. The eighth house teaches surrender, but Aries instinctively wants to fight through challenges. Let go of the belief that emotional pain must be overcome through force. Sometimes the only way forward is to let go. Instead of resisting endings or transformation, practice accepting change as part of life's natural flow. And finally, create a ritual of emotional surrender and integration. Start your day affirming, I embrace transformation with courage and trust in the process of life. When you feel the urge to react impulsively, take a step back and ask, what is this emotion teaching me? Practice breath work, meditation, or journaling to release emotions without needing to act on them immediately. Remember that true strength isn't in fighting transformation, it's in trusting it. When you allow yourself to sit with emotions instead of rushing through them, you unlock true power and resilience. You don't have to push through everything. Sometimes stillness is your answer. You don't have to prove your strength. Your ability to surrender is proof enough. Your deepest transformation comes when you stop fighting change and start embracing it. A powerful release mantra for you is, I surrender to transformation with trust, knowing that true strength comes from within. I'd love to hear how this resonated for you, so be sure to drop a comment below. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your 8th house in Taurus brings a unique emotional struggle. The fear of instability, resistance to change, and the tendency to cling to what feels safe, even when it no longer serves you. While Taurus energy is naturally grounded, loyal, and comfort seeking, the 8th house forces you to confront deep emotional wounds tied to control, attachment, and transformation. Your deepest challenge revolves around learning to let go, trust the process of change, and release your grip on material and emotional security. The emotional baggage that you carry can be around a fear of instability and loss. You may find security in predictability, stability, and material comfort, making emotional or financial uncertainty deeply unsettling. You may carry an attachment to the past, so you may hold on to relationships, memories, or possessions long after they've outlived their purpose, fearing the unknown that comes with letting go. You may carry a resistance to deep emotional change. Transformation can feel disruptive and uncomfortable, making you hesitant to fully surrender to emotional healing. You may also carry a fear of financial or emotional vulnerability, so you may avoid deep financial entanglements or emotional intimacy out of fear of losing control or security. You may also carry an over-reliance on material comfort as emotional security. So you may turn to food, luxury, shopping, or other physical comforts to soothe emotional wounds instead of facing them directly. Taurus energy craves stability and permanence, but the 8th house requires transformation, surrender, and embracing uncertainty. This creates an inner conflict between holding on and letting go. Now, this energy can manifest in your life in several ways. When it comes to relationships, you may stay in relationships longer than you should, even when they're no longer fulfilling, just because they feel safe. You may fear change within relationships, preferring to maintain emotional stability rather than embrace growth or transformation. There can be a reluctance to fully trust others, especially if financial or emotional dependency is involved. When it comes to money, you may have a deep fear of financial loss, leading to overcautiousness with investments, shared assets, or financial risk. There can be a tendency to hoard money or possessions, finding security in material wealth rather than emotional fulfillment. You may resist financial merging with a partner, preferring to keep your resources separate to maintain independence. In personal transformation, you may struggle with accepting major life changes, feeling deeply unsettled when things shift unexpectedly. Healing may feel slow and difficult, as you naturally prefer gradual step-by-step progress rather than sudden emotional breakthroughs. You might avoid confronting deep emotional wounds, choosing instead to focus on practical or physical aspects of life rather than internal emotional shifts. You may also have a fear of letting go, so you may hold on to resentments, past pains, or limiting beliefs far longer than necessary. You may have a fear of losing financial or emotional security, leading to stubbornness or resistance to change. You may also struggle with trusting that transformation can lead to something better, making it hard to embrace emotional healing. Taurus energy wants stability, But the eighth house requires death, rebirth, and deep change. This inner conflict can create resistance to emotional or financial transformation, leading to stagnation in areas that need growth. Now, to release and transform this energy, the first step is to embrace change as a natural part of life. Instead of fearing change, start seeing it as a natural and necessary part of growth. Remind yourself, nothing truly valuable is ever lost. Everything transforms into something new. Let go of the belief that security must come from permanence. True security is internal. Next is to release what no longer serves you. If a relationship, belief, or habit is keeping you stuck, practice conscious detachment. Honor it, then let it go. Declutter your life physically and emotionally. What you release makes space for something better. Trust that letting go does not mean loss. It means evolution. Next is to redefine security beyond the material. True security isn't just about money, possessions, or physical comfort. It's about emotional and spiritual alignment. Ask yourself, what does true stability feel like on an emotional and spiritual level? Practice grounding through inner work rather than external validation. Next is to trust in the unknown and surrender to transformation. The eighth house requires surrender, which can feel uncomfortable, but transformation always leads to growth. Remind yourself, you don't have to control everything. Trust the process. Practice stepping into uncertainty with faith, whether through meditation, journaling, or deep self-reflection. And finally, create a ritual for releasing and embracing change. Start your day affirming, I release what no longer serves me and trust that change leads to my highest good. When you feel resistance to change, pause and ask yourself, is this resistance serving me or is it keeping me stuck? Engage in grounding practices like spending time in nature, working with earth-based healing tools such as crystals or essential oils, or practicing gratitude for what is rather than fearing what's to come. Remember that true security isn't in holding on. It's in trusting that what is meant for you will always flow to you. When you release your grip on control and embrace transformation, you unlock greater emotional freedom, abundance, and peace. You don't have to fear change. Transformation brings you closer to your best self. You don't have to cling to what feels safe. True stability comes with trust. Letting go isn't loss. It's creating space for something even better. A powerful release mantra for you is, I trust that letting go makes space for something greater. I am safe in change and open to transformation. I'd love to hear how this resonated for you, so be sure to drop a comment, and if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share with your friends who can also benefit from this info. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your 8th house in Gemini brings a unique emotional struggle. The fear of emotional depth, avoidance of difficult feelings through distraction, and the tendency to intellectualize pain rather than fully process it. While Gemini energy is naturally curious, communicative, and mentally agile, the 8th house forces you to confront deep emotional wounds tied to trust, emotional consistency, and the fear of being truly seen beneath the surface. Your greatest challenge revolves around learning to embrace emotional depth, silence mental noise, and allow transformation without needing to overanalyze or explain it. The emotional baggage you carry can be around a fear of deep emotional attachment. So you may prefer intellectual connections over emotional ones, finding emotional intensity overwhelming or unnecessary. You may have a tendency to overanalyze rather than feel. Instead of allowing emotions to flow naturally, you may rationalize, joke about, or talk your way around them rather than truly experiencing them. You may also carry an avoidance of stillness. When emotions become too intense, you may turn to distraction, constant learning, or socializing rather than sitting with what you feel. You may also carry struggles with emotional trust. So you may be hesitant to fully trust others with your deepest emotions, fearing that vulnerability will lead to disappointment or rejection. You may also carry restlessness in transformation. So instead of embracing slow, deep healing, you may prefer quick fixes, seeking new information, or trying different perspectives rather than sticking with one healing path. Gemini energy thrives on movement, information, and adaptability, but the 8th house requires stillness, depth, and complete emotional surrender. This creates inner tension between staying on the surface versus diving into deep emotional healing. Now, this energy can manifest in your life in several ways. When it comes to relationships, you may feel more comfortable talking about emotions than actually experiencing them. There may be a tendency to keep relationships light and mentally stimulating, avoiding deep emotional entanglements. You might move on quickly from emotional disappointments, not allowing yourself the time to truly heal. When it comes to money, you may have a scattered or unpredictable approach to financial matters, particularly when it comes to investments, debts, or shared assets. You may feel uncomfortable with long-term financial commitments, preferring flexibility over deep financial merging. You might rationalize financial fears rather than address them directly. In personal transformation, you may approach healing like an intellectual exercise, constantly learning but not fully integrating what you discover. Instead of deep introspection, you may prefer discussing healing theories or bouncing between ideas. The 8th house requires emotional surrender, but Gemini prefers to keep moving rather than sit with difficult emotions. So this can bring a fear of emotional stagnation. So you may worry that getting too deep into emotions will leave you stuck. You may have a fear of being misunderstood. You may struggle with feelings like no one fully gets how you process emotions. And it may bring a resistance to slowing down and allowing transformation to happen naturally instead of trying to figure it out with logic. Gemini energy thrives on change and quick thinking, but the 8th house requires emotional depth, trust, and patience with transformation. This creates an inner struggle between seeking answers versus allowing emotional truths to unfold naturally. Now, to release and transform this energy, the first step is to learn to sit with your emotions without explaining them. Healing isn't about understanding everything. It's about allowing emotions to be felt. Practice letting emotions surface without analyzing or labeling them. Instead of asking, "Why do I feel this way?" try, "How can I fully experience this emotion?" Next is to slow down and embrace emotional stillness. Meditation, deep breathing, and mindfulness can help you connect with emotions rather than avoiding them. Try journaling without editing your thoughts. Let yourself write exactly how you feel in the moment. Spend time alone with your emotions, free from distractions or mental chatter. Next is to trust that not everything needs a logical explanation. Some emotions don't make sense, and that's okay. The more you try to rationalize emotions, the more you disconnect from truly experiencing them. Healing happens when you allow yourself to feel without needing to solve. Next is to go deeper in your relationships and emotional bonds. If you find yourself keeping things light, challenge yourself to open up on a deeper emotional level. Trust that emotional depth doesn't have to feel suffocating. It can be freeing. Recognize that vulnerability strengthens relationships rather than weakens them. Next is to create a ritual for deep emotional integration. Start your day affirming, I embrace emotional depth and trust the process of transformation. Practice being present in your emotions before seeking external validation. When you feel overwhelmed, resist the urge to distract yourself. Sit with what's coming up. Remember that your mind is powerful, but your emotions hold their own wisdom. When you stop analyzing and start feeling, you unlock a new level of emotional freedom, connection, and transformation. You don't have to explain everything. Some things are meant to be felt. You don't have to keep moving. Stillness leads to deeper clarity. Your greatest transformation comes when you stop thinking and start trusting. A powerful release mantra for you is, I release the need to overanalyze my emotions and trust in the wisdom of my feelings. I'd love to hear how this resonated for you, so be sure to drop me a comment below. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends who can also benefit from this information. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your 8th house in Cancer brings a unique emotional struggle, the fear of abandonment, deep emotional attachment to the past, and difficulty in fully trusting others with your vulnerability. While Cancer energy is naturally nurturing, protective, and deeply emotional, the 8th house forces you to confront wounds tied to emotional security, family conditioning, and the fear of losing the people or things that make you feel safe. Your biggest challenge revolves around learning to let go of emotional baggage, trust the process of transformation, and embrace deep emotional healing without fear. The emotional baggage that you carry can be around a fear of abandonment or loss. So you may hold on to relationships, memories, and attachments because losing someone or something feels deeply destabilizing. You may carry unresolved family or childhood wounds. Many of your deepest emotional struggles may be rooted in past family dynamics, inherited emotional patterns, or childhood conditioning. You may also carry struggles with emotional boundaries, so you may feel responsible for others' emotions, taking on their pain as your own while neglecting your own emotional needs. You may also carry a fear of full emotional vulnerability. While you do crave deep emotional connection, you may fear opening up too much and getting hurt. And you may also carry the tendency to suppress emotions rather than expressing them in a healthy way. Instead of fully processing grief, pain, or disappointment, you may withdraw into emotional self-protection mode, keeping emotions locked away. Cancer energy seeks comfort in what's familiar, But the 8th house demands emotional transformation and letting go. This creates inner conflict between holding on to emotional security and embracing the unknown path of healing. Now, this energy can manifest in your life in several ways. One being in relationships. So you may cling to relationships even when they're unhealthy because they provide emotional security. There's a tendency to seek deep emotional intimacy, but you may struggle to fully trust others with your heart. You might have unconscious emotional expectations, feeling hurt when others don't provide the same level of care you give. When it comes to money, you may have deep emotional attachment to financial security, fearing instability or loss. You might feel uncomfortable with financial risk or sharing resources, preferring to control your own finances for security. Emotional spending may be a pattern, using money, food, or material comforts as a way to self-soothe. Now, healing can also feel slow and emotional overwhelming for you, making it tempting to retreat rather than face deep emotions head on. There may be a fear of letting go of the past, causing emotional stagnation or a struggle to move forward. The 8th house requires emotional depth and surrender, but Cancer energy resists full emotional release out of a fear of pain. You may also carry the fear of being emotionally abandoned or not feeling safe in deep connections. You could carry a fear of letting go of family, past memories, or deeply ingrained emotional patterns. You may have struggles with fully embracing transformation, preferring emotional safety over deep healing. Cancer energy thrives in emotional familiarity, but the 8th house requires emotional depth, transformation, and release. This creates inner resistance to letting go, trusting deep healing, and surrendering to emotional evolution. Now, to heal and release this energy is to learn to let go of emotional attachments that no longer serve you. Not everyone and everything is meant to stay in your life forever. Letting go doesn't mean losing love. Recognize that true emotional security comes from within, not from external sources. When something or someone is no longer aligned with your growth, release it with love rather than fear. Next is to heal your inner child and family wounds. If you feel emotionally stuck, explore how your childhood shaped your emotional needs and fears. Shadow work or journaling about family dynamics can help uncover deep emotional patterns. Break generational cycles. You are not bound to repeat the past. Next is to establish emotional boundaries without guilt. You don't have to carry everyone's emotions as your own. Learn to differentiate between emotional support and emotional enmeshment. Practice saying, "I love you, but your emotions are not my responsibility to fix." Next is to stop romanticizing the past and focus on the present. If you feel nostalgic for something that no longer exists, gently remind yourself, the future holds more than the past ever did. When you catch yourself dwelling on old emotions, shift your focus to what is currently supporting your growth. Accept that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means honoring what was while embracing what's next. And finally, create a ritual for emotional release and self-nurturing. Start your day affirming, "I release the past and trust that emotional healing leads me to my highest self." Take time to write a letter to your past self or past wounds, then safely burn it as a symbolic act of release. Allow yourself to fully feel emotions without fear, knowing that feeling deeply is a strength, not a weakness. Remember that true emotional security isn't in holding on. It's in trusting that what's meant for you will always remain in your heart. When you release the emotional burdens of the past and trust your ability to heal, you unlock deep inner peace and emotional strength. You don't have to cling to feel safe. True security comes from within. You don't have to fear letting go. Healing is an act of self-love. Your deepest transformation happens when you trust in your emotional resilience. A powerful release mantra for you is, I release emotional baggage with love and trust that my heart is safe in transformation. I'd love to hear how this resonated for you, so be sure to drop me a comment below. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends who can also benefit from this info. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your 8th house in Leo brings a unique emotional struggle. The need for recognition, fear of losing personal power and emotional vulnerability, and difficulty surrendering control in deep emotional experiences. While Leo energy is naturally bold, self-expressive, and magnetic, the 8th house forces you to confront wounds tied to self-worth, trust, and the fear of not being seen or valued in intimate spaces. Your biggest challenge revolves around learning to embrace emotional transformation without ego resistance, trust in love without needing validation, and surrender to deep change without fearing loss of self. The emotional baggage that you carry can be around a fear of losing your sense of identity in emotional connections. So you may subconsciously believe that being deeply vulnerable means losing control of how you're perceived. You may carry struggles with emotional validation. So you might feel that your emotions need to be acknowledged, admired, or understood in order to be valid. You may carry a fear of betrayal or not being valued. A core wound revolves around trusting that people will truly appreciate you beyond surface level admiration. You may also carry difficulty surrendering to emotional depth. You thrive when you feel in charge, but deep emotions require surrender, not control. You may also be holding on to pride or past hurts. When you feel wronged or unappreciated, it can be hard to forgive, forget, or move forward without carrying resentment. Leo energy thrives on recognition and self-expression, but the 8th house requires ego death, deep surrender, and emotional transformation. This creates an inner tension between wanting to be seen and needing to let go of how you're perceived. Now, this energy can manifest in your life in several ways. In relationships, you may crave deep intimacy but fear losing control, leading to power struggles in relationships. You may need to feel special or prioritized, sometimes testing relationships to see if you truly matter. If you don't feel seen or valued, you may withdraw emotionally or develop resentment. When it comes to money, you may feel the need to be in control of shared resources, preferring independence over financial dependence. There's a tendency to associate wealth or material success with self-worth. You might be drawn to dramatic financial decisions, such as high-stakes investments or financial risk. You may also resist deep emotional healing because it feels too vulnerable or threatens your sense of self. Instead of fully surrendering to transformation, you may try to reshape it into something you can control. The 8th house requires emotional surrender, But Leo energy prefers to direct the narrative rather than be led by the unknown. So you may carry a fear of not being seen or appreciated for your depth and emotional strength. You may have a fear around being powerless in emotional situations or losing control in transformation. And you may also have struggles with letting go of pride, past wounds, or the need to prove your worth to others. Leo energy wants to be in the spotlight, but the eighth house demands deep, unseen transformation. This inner struggle can make it difficult to let go of ego attachments, emotional wounds, or old versions of yourself. Now, to begin to release and transform this energy, the first step is to let go of the need for external validation in healing. Emotional healing doesn't need an audience. It's an internal journey. Recognize that deep emotional transformation happens behind the scenes. Start embracing growth for yourself, not for external recognition. Next is to surrender control and trust in emotional intimacy. Not everything in life can be directed or shaped to fit your narrative. Practice allowing deep emotional connections to unfold naturally rather than trying to control them. Let go of the belief that vulnerability equates weakness. True strength comes from emotional authenticity. Next is to release old wounds and stop carrying the past. If you feel unappreciated, betrayed, or undervalued, acknowledge it, but don't let it define your emotional future. Holding on to pride or past pain only blocks transformation. Recognize that forgiveness is for your freedom, not for anyone else. Next is to find power in letting go, not holding on. The eighth house requires transformation, which means embracing rebirth rather than resisting endings. Instead of fearing emotional shifts, start seeing them as an evolution into a stronger, wiser version of yourself. Trust that letting go of attachments to old narratives allows room for deeper emotional fulfillment. And finally, create a ritual for ego release and emotional surrender. Start your day affirming, I release the need for validation and trust in my inner strength. When you feel triggered, instead of reacting, ask, what part of me is afraid of surrendering? Engage in practices that allow you to release control, such as breath work, meditation, or intuitive journaling. Remember that your greatest strength isn't in being seen. It's in knowing your worth, even in the unseen moments of transformation. When you release the need for control and embrace emotional depth without fear, you unlock true power and authenticity. You don't have to prove your worth. Your existence is proof enough. You don't have to control the narrative. True transformation happens when you surrender. Your deepest strength comes when you let go of the need to be seen and allow yourself to simply be. A powerful release mantra for you is, I surrender to emotional transformation and trust that my worth is not dependent on being seen, but on being true to myself. I'd love to hear how this resonated for you, so be sure to drop me a comment. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends who can also benefit from this information. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your eighth house in Virgo brings a unique emotional struggle. The need for control in emotional healing, perfectionism in transformation, and difficulty surrendering to the unknown. Now, while Virgo energy is naturally analytical, detail-oriented, and structured. The eighth house forces you to confront wounds tied to trust, emotional surrender, and the fear of imperfection in personal growth. Your biggest challenge revolves around learning to release the need for control in deep emotional healing, embracing transformation without overanalyzing it, and allowing yourself to heal without striving for perfection. Now, the emotional baggage that you carry can be around a fear of emotional disorder. So you may feel uneasy with messy, unpredictable emotions, preferring logic and structure over raw emotional depth. You may also carry perfectionism in healing. So instead of allowing yourself to process emotions naturally, you may try to fix or analyze them like a problem to be solved. You may also carry control over personal transformation. So you prefer structured, step by step healing rather than trusting in organic emotional change. You may also carry a fear of being not good enough in emotional connections. You may worry that your emotional depth isn't perfect or that your healing journey should look a certain way. You may also carry over analyzing past pains instead of feeling it. So you may intellectualize your emotions rather than letting yourself fully experience and release them. Now, Virgo energy seeks order and clarity, but the eighth house requires surrender to deep emotional transformation, which is often felt as chaotic and unpredictable. This creates inner resistance to letting go, trusting emotional flow, and allowing transformation without micromanaging it. Now, this energy can manifest in your life in several ways. When it comes to relationships, you may feel the need to fix others emotionally, often taking on the role of caretaker or problem solver. You may overanalyze relationships, struggling to simply experience emotions without needing an explanation. There's also a tendency to fear emotional unpredictability, leading you to seek partners who feel safe but may not challenge you to grow. When it comes to money, you may feel anxiety over shared finances, preferring to maintain full control rather than trust others with money. Financial perfectionism can lead to overly cautious spending, avoiding risk, or fear of financial instability. You may struggle with trusting financial or emotional investments, fearing they won't be worth it in the long run. In personal transformation, healing may feel like a checklist rather than an emotional journey. There may be a tendency for you to focus on fixing instead of simply being present with your emotions. There may be a resistance to deep, raw emotions, preferring to process pain through logic rather than the full emotional experience. The eighth house requires trust and surrender, but Virgo prefers to have a plan for everything, including healing. You may also carry a fear of losing control in emotional experiences, so you may avoid situations that force emotional vulnerability. You may have a fear of not healing correctly, so you may feel pressure to have an ideal healing timeline rather than allowing yourself to evolve naturally. You may struggle with letting go of past mistakes, often overanalyzing what went wrong instead of fully releasing the past. Virgo energy wants clarity, logic, and step-by-step progress, but the eighth house demands deep emotional surrender, trust, and acceptance of the unknown. This creates an inner conflict between wanting to analyze pain and needing to feel it fully. Now, to release and transform this energy, the first step is to let go of the need to fix everything. Healing isn't a project, it's an experience. Allow emotions to exist without analyzing, correcting, or forcing them into a structure. Recognize that not everything needs an immediate solution. Some wounds heal in their own time. Next is to trust that messy emotions are part of growth. Not everything in life can be controlled or neatly categorized. Transformation requires surrender. Instead of trying to label or explain every emotion, practice simply feeling and moving through them. Accept that healing is not linear. There is no perfect way to transform, which leads into releasing perfectionism in emotional healing. You don't need to get healing right. Growth is messy, imperfect, and deeply personal. Instead of focusing on what you should feel or do, allow emotions to unfold naturally. Recognize that being vulnerable does not mean being weak. It means being real. Next is to stop overanalyzing the past and allow yourself to move on. Overthinking what went wrong keeps you tied to the past. Release the need to figure it out. Trust that sometimes closure isn't about understanding. It's about deciding to let go. When you catch yourself overanalyzing, ask, is this helping me heal or is it keeping me stuck? And finally, create a ritual for emotional surrender and self-trust. Start your day affirming, I release the need for perfection and trust in my natural healing process. When emotions arise, instead of questioning them, say, I allow this to exist without judgment. Engage in practices that encourage emotional flow rather than control, such as breath work, free writing, or intuitive movement. Remember that your healing is not a task to complete. It's an experience to embrace. When you release the need to control, fix, or overanalyze transformation, you unlock true emotional freedom and inner peace. You don't have to have all the answers. Trust the process. You don't have to heal perfectly. Imperfection is part of the journey. Your deepest growth happens when you stop trying to control and start allowing. A powerful release mantra for you is, I surrender to transformation without fear, knowing that healing unfolds in perfect timing. I'd love to hear how this resonated for you, so be sure to drop a comment below, and if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your 8th house in Libra brings a unique emotional struggle. The fear of losing balance in deep emotional experiences, dependency on external validation in relationships, and difficulty making peace with emotional upheaval. While Libra energy is naturally diplomatic, relationship-focused, and beauty-seeking, the 8th house forces you to confront wounds tied to codependency, fear of emotional confrontation, and resistance to transformational change. Your biggest challenge revolves around learning to embrace emotional depth without fear of disharmony, releasing the need for external validation, and trusting yourself through life's deeper transformations. The emotional baggage you carry can be around a fear of emotional instability. You may feel deeply uncomfortable with intense, unpredictable emotions that disrupt your sense of inner peace. You may also carry dependence on relationships for emotional security. There may be a tendency to seek validation, love, or support from others rather than fully trusting your own emotional strength. You may also carry struggles with confrontation and emotional honesty. You might avoid deep emotional conversations or suppress difficult feelings to maintain harmony. You may carry a fear of rejection or abandonment, so you may hold on to unbalanced relationships longer than you should, fearing that being alone means losing love. You may also have a difficulty with embracing emotional depth. Libra prefers lightness and balance, but the eighth house requires raw, intense transformation, which can feel overwhelming. Libra energy seeks equilibrium and fairness, but the eighth house requires deep emotional confrontation, surrender, and self-trust. This creates an inner conflict between wanting everything to stay balanced and needing to embrace emotional extremes for true transformation. This energy can manifest in your life in several ways, including in relationships. You may prioritize keeping the peace over expressing your true emotions, leading to repressed feelings. You may depend on a partner for emotional validation, struggling to fully stand in your own emotional power. There's also a tendency to romanticize relationships, sometimes ignoring deeper issues in favor of idealized harmony. When it comes to money, you may hesitate to take financial risk, preferring joint security over independent financial power. There can be a fear of financial imbalance in relationships, making it difficult to trust financial merging. You might struggle with financial independence, feeling more comfortable in shared wealth or joint resources. You may also resist emotional depth because it feels too messy, complicated, or overwhelming for your peace-loving nature. There's a tendency to intellectualize emotions rather than fully experience them, leading to unprocessed pain. The eighth house requires full emotional surrender, but Libra energy prefers graceful balance rather than raw emotional intensity. You may also carry a fear of being alone or emotionally unsupported, leading to holding on to relationships that no longer serve you. You can also carry a fear of losing control in emotional situations, preferring to keep emotions at a surface level. Libra energy wants balance, connection, and fairness, but the eighth house requires emotional depth, surrender, and the willingness to face hard truths. This creates an internal struggle between seeking harmony and needing transformation. Now, to release and transform this energy, the first step is to stop seeking external validation and find emotional balance within. Your emotions don't need external approval to be valid. Start practicing self-soothing techniques instead of relying on others to create emotional stability for you. Remind yourself, emotional independence does not mean emotional isolation. Next is to embrace emotional depth without fear of disruption. True balance isn't about avoiding intensity. It's about learning to navigate it with grace. Allow yourself to experience emotions fully rather than suppressing them to keep the peace. Recognize that deep emotions don't create imbalance. They create growth. Next is to let go of unbalanced relationships and stand in your emotional power. If a relationship requires constant compromise at your expense, it's time to reevaluate. Embrace the idea that being alone is better than being emotionally drained. Trust that true partnership comes from authenticity, not from avoiding confrontation. Next is to accept that transformation doesn't mean losing yourself. You don't have to cling to old versions of yourself out of fear of change. Emotional depth doesn't erase your grace. It enhances it. Recognize that your soul craves transformation, not just harmony. And finally, create a ritual for self-love and emotional ownership. Start your day affirming, I embrace emotional depth and trust in my inner balance. When you feel conflict, ask, am I avoiding this to keep the peace, or is this something I truly need to express? Practice self-love rituals that remind you of your inner emotional strength, such as mirror work, journaling, or movement meditation. Remember that true balance isn't found in avoiding deep emotions. It's in learning to embrace them without fear. When you release the need for external validation and trust in your own emotional power, you unlock true transformation and deeper, more authentic connections. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for harmony. Your emotions deserve space. You don't have to fear emotional intensity. It's part of your growth. Your deepest transformation happens when you stop avoiding emotions and start embracing them. A powerful release mantra for you is, I release my need for external validation and trust in the power of my own emotions. I'd love to hear how this resonated for you, so be sure to drop me some comments below. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends who can also benefit from this information. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings that are designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your 8th house in Scorpio brings a unique emotional struggle. The fear of losing control in deep emotional experiences, difficulty trusting others with your vulnerability, and resistance to fully surrendering to transformation. While Scorpio energy is naturally intense, deeply intuitive, and power-driven, the 8th house forces you to confront wounds tied to fear of betrayal, emotional secrecy, and the need to control your own healing process. Your biggest challenge revolves around learning to embrace emotional rebirth without fear, trusting in transformation, and allowing yourself to be vulnerable without seeing it as a weakness. You can be carrying emotional baggage around a fear of betrayal or being emotionally overpowered. You may have a deep-seated fear of trusting the wrong people, being manipulated, or losing control in close relationships. You may be carrying baggage around emotional secrecy and self-protection. So you may hold back your true emotions, only revealing parts of yourself that feel safe to expose. You may also carry struggles with surrendering to deep emotional change. You may feel the need to manage your transformation instead of fully trusting the natural cycles of death and rebirth. You may carry a fear of losing personal power and vulnerability. So you may associate being open and exposed with giving away your power. So you keep your emotions tightly guarded. You may also be holding on to past pain as a form of self-protection. So instead of releasing past wounds, you may cling to them as lessons or reminders never to trust too deeply again. Scorpio energy seeks depth, truth, and ultimate control. But the 8th house requires surrender, trust, and vulnerability. This creates an inner conflict between wanting to transform and fearing what will happen if you fully let go. Now, this energy can manifest in your life in several ways. In relationships, you may crave deep emotional intimacy, but also fear the vulnerability that comes with it. You may test people's loyalty or push them away to see if they'll fight to stay. You may have trust issues that cause you to be suspicious of people's true intentions, even if they've given you no reason to doubt them. When it comes to money, you may have a strong need for financial independence or be secretive about money, even with close partners. There can be an intense focus on wealth, inheritance, or shared resources, sometimes leading to power struggles. You might feel a deep fear of financial loss, leading to a desire to control money and security. You may go through extreme cycles of personal deconstruction and rebirth, but resist fully surrendering to transformation until it's forced upon you. Healing for you is often intense, private, and deeply personal, and you may rarely share your struggles with others. You may seek power through transformation, wanting to control the process rather than trust its natural unfolding. You may also have fear of letting your guard down. You may think if you open up, someone will use your vulnerability against you. You may be carrying a fear of losing yourself in transformation, so you may resist deep emotional change unless you feel in control of it. And also, you may have struggles with obsessive or all or nothing thinking, making it difficult to let go without feeling like you're giving up your power. Scorpio energy thrives in emotional intensity, but the 8th house requires surrender to the unknown. This creates an internal struggle between wanting deep transformation, but fearing what will happen if you fully release control. Now, to begin to release and transform this energy, the first step is to learn to trust the process of emotional surrender. You don't need to control every step of transformation. Some changes happen organically. Recognize that true power isn't in controlling the process. It's in trusting yourself to handle whatever comes next. Let go of the belief that surrender equates weakness. True strength comes from allowing yourself to evolve. Next is to release the fear that vulnerability equals powerlessness. Opening up doesn't mean losing control. It means creating deeper, more meaningful connections. Instead of seeing emotions as a battlefield, see them as a bridge to deeper self-awareness. Trust that showing your true self will attract the right people, not expose you to harm. Next is to let go of the pain you've been carrying as armor. You don't have to hold on to past betrayals or heartbreaks to protect yourself. They don't define your future. Release the need to test people's loyalty. Trust is built, not forced. Acknowledge that keeping emotional walls up doesn't prevent pain. It only isolates you from real love. Next is to stop fighting the natural cycles of transformation. The 8th house requires death and rebirth, but you resist endings out of fear of the unknown. Instead of seeing change as destruction, view it as an upgrade. Each version of yourself is stronger than the last. Let go of the need to control transformation. True evolution happens when you surrender to the flow. And finally, create a ritual for emotional release and rebirth. Start your day affirming, I surrender to transformation and trust that letting go leads to my highest evolution. When you feel fear of vulnerability, ask yourself, am I protecting myself or am I blocking my own growth? Engage in shadow work, deep meditation, or cord-cutting rituals to release the emotional ties that no longer serve you. Remember that your power isn't in control, it's in your ability to transform, rise, and trust your own resilience. When you let go of emotional walls, surrender to deep healing, and embrace the full cycle of transformation, you step into your highest form of power. You don't have to control every step. Transformation will unfold as it's meant to. You don't have to hold on to past pain. Real strength comes from releasing what no longer serves you. Your deepest power lies in your ability to surrender, trust, and rise stronger than before. A powerful release mantra for you is, I release my need for control and trust that my emotional depth is my greatest strength. I'd love to hear how this resonated for you, so be sure to drop a comment below. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends who can also benefit from this information. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your eighth house in Sagittarius brings a unique emotional struggle. The fear of being trapped versus the desire for deep transformation. While Sagittarius energy is naturally free spirited, expansive, and adventurous, the eighth house forces you to confront the darker, heavier emotions you'd rather escape from. Your deepest wounds stem from issues related to freedom, trust, and surrendering to life's transformations. The emotional baggage that you carry can be around fear of being controlled or tied down. Deep down, you may associate emotional intensity, commitments, and attachments with loss of personal freedom. This can make it hard to fully surrender to deep emotional bonds or transformational experiences. You may also carry avoidance of deep emotional work. So you may use humor, travel, distractions, or philosophy as a way to intellectualize your pain rather than feeling it. You may also have a fear of the unknown. So even though you love adventure, the unknown in emotional or spiritual transformation can feel overwhelming, making you hesitant to truly embrace deep change. Also, struggles with faith and surrender. So you may have deep-rooted trust issues, especially with believing that things will work out in your favor. Your subconscious wounds revolve around needing to control outcomes or feeling lost when things don't go as planned. And also emotional restlessness. Your mind and spirit crave expansion, but emotionally, you may struggle with commitment to deep inner work. This creates a cycle where you start transformation but never fully integrate it. Sagittarius energy thrives on constant movement, but true transformation in the eighth house requires stillness, surrender, and deep emotional integration. The discomfort of sitting with pain rather than running from it makes it difficult for you to fully process and release old wounds. So this energy may manifest in your life in several ways. So in relationships, you may avoid deep emotional intimacy because it feels like a loss of freedom. If a relationship gets too serious or emotionally intense, you may feel the urge to pull away or run. And you may also attract partners who are emotionally unavailable or distant, mirroring your own subconscious fear of deep vulnerability. When it comes to money and shared resources, you may have a risky or impulsive approach to money, especially when it comes to investments, shared finances, or debt. This also brings a fear of depending on others financially, so you may resist sharing financial responsibilities with a partner. In your personal transformation journey, you may chase knowledge and experiences, but avoid deep self-reflection. Your growth tends to happen through external exploration, such as traveling, studying, or spiritual seeking, rather than internal transformation, such as shadow work or deep emotional processing. You may start transformational journeys, but then may struggle to follow through when it gets uncomfortable. And regarding your fears and subconscious patterns, you may have a fear of settling down in any one place or with one identity. So you may feel like commitment means losing yourself. There's also a fear of being emotionally trapped or restricted. You may equate deep emotional experiences with a sense of losing control. And in turn, you may struggle with letting go of control and trusting the unknown, always needing an exit plan or backup option. Sagittarius is the sign of truth and expansion, but in the eighth house, it struggles with facing emotional truths. Instead of fully integrating lessons, you may intellectualize emotions, seek adventure to escape discomfort, or move on too quickly before true transformation can happen. Now, in order to release and transform this energy, the first step is to stop running from your feelings and sit with them instead. Instead of seeking distraction through your work, traveling, socializing, or knowledge, practice being fully present with your emotions. Meditation, journaling, and shadow work will help you to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. Next is to redefine freedom. It's an internal state, not external. True freedom doesn't come from avoiding attachment. It comes from knowing that no external situation controls your peace. Recognize that deep emotional transformation doesn't take away your independence. It actually strengthens it. Next is to trust that emotional depth won't trap you. Healing isn't about being tied down. It's about releasing what limits you. Work on trusting emotional depth instead of fearing it will limit your possibilities. Next is to shift from seeking to integrating. Sagittarius energy loves to seek knowledge, experiences, and growth. But in the 8th house, this is asking you to slow down and integrate what you've learned. So instead of jumping to the next thing, practice deep focus on healing and self-discovery. And finally, practice surrender and let go of the need to control outcomes. One of the biggest fears of the 8th house being in Sagittarius is trusting the unknown. Develop a practice of trusting the universe, whether through meditation, faith, or learning to embrace uncertainty. Let go of the belief that you need to have everything figured out before taking the next step. Remember, your freedom isn't in avoiding emotions. It's in embracing them, processing them, and realizing they don't control you. When you stop running and start integrating, you transform into a person who doesn't just seek the truth, but embodies it. You don't have to escape to be free. You don't have to control the outcome to be safe. Your deepest expansion comes from going inward, not just outward. A powerful release mantra for you is, I trust the unknown. I surrender to transformation, knowing it leads to my highest expansion. I'd love to hear how this resonated, so drop a comment. And if you haven't already, be sure you like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your 8th house in Capricorn carries a unique emotional burden: the fear of losing control, status, or security. While Capricorn energy is naturally structured, disciplined, and achievement-oriented, the 8th house forces you to confront deep emotional wounds tied to power, authority, and self-worth. Your deepest struggles revolve around trust, vulnerability, and letting go of rigid expectations. The emotional baggage that you carry could be around a fear of failure or losing control. You may feel a deep subconscious need to hold it all together, to appear strong, capable, and unshakable, even when you're struggling inside. You may also be carrying emotional repression. Capricorn's energy thrives on practicality and control, making it difficult for you to fully express or process deep emotions. Instead, you may bottle them up, suppress them, or view vulnerability as a weakness. You also may carry attachment to status, reputation, and external validation. Your self-worth may be tied to success, achievement, or material security, making it hard to let go of relationships, jobs, or situations that no longer serve you. You may also carry difficulty trusting others, so you may struggle to let people in emotionally, fearing that vulnerability will lead to disappointment, betrayal, or loss of control. Also, there may be a fear of deep transformation. Change, especially emotional or spiritual change, can feel threatening. There is an internal resistance to surrendering to the unknown, which can lead to a fear of fully embracing transformation. Capricorn's nature is to build, protect, and control, but the eighth house is about death, rebirth, and surrender. These two energies clash, making it difficult for you to embrace emotional flow and let go of structures that no longer serve you. So this energy may manifest in several ways. So in your relationships, you may struggle to open up emotionally, fearing that vulnerability will be seen as weakness. You may put responsibility over intimacy, prioritizing stability and obligations over deep emotional connection. There may also be a tendency for you to attract partners who are emotionally distant, work-focused, or controlling, mirroring your own emotional walls. When it comes to money, you may have a strong fear of financial instability, leading you to be highly cautious, frugal, or obsessed with financial security. You may have difficulty trusting others with money, feeling the need to control shared finances in relationships or business. There may also be a tendency for you to equate self-worth with material success, making it hard to feel emotionally fulfilled if external achievements don't align with your expectations. In personal transformation, you may resist deep emotional healing, preferring to stay busy or focus on practical concerns rather than sit with your emotions. You may fear letting go of control, which can make spiritual growth or deep emotional release feel uncomfortable. Instead of surrendering to transformation, you may try to force change through discipline and strategy, rather than allowing natural evolution. When it comes to your fears and subconscious patterns, you may have a fear around failure or loss of status. You may feel pressure to always be strong, successful, and in control. You may have struggles with trusting the process of life. You may try to structure or control every aspect of your journey rather than allowing things to unfold naturally. You may carry a deep resistance to endings and change, whether it's relationships, careers, or belief systems. Letting go can feel destabilizing. Capricorn energy wants to build foundations and maintain order, but the eighth house demands transformation and surrender. This can create internal tension between wanting stability and resisting change. Now, to release and transform this energy, the first step is to redefine strength. It's in surrender, not control. Strength isn't about holding it all together. It's about allowing yourself to evolve. Start practicing emotional vulnerability in small ways, whether through journaling or opening up to trusted people. Let go of the belief that asking for help or expressing emotion is a weakness. Next is to let go of the need to control every outcome. Not everything in life can be structured or controlled. Some things need to unfold naturally. Practice trusting the process instead of forcing solutions. Surrender to the unknown and recognize that real transformation happens when you release control. Next is to separate self-worth from external success. Your value is not tied to your achievements, financial security, or reputation. Start celebrating emotional growth, personal breakthroughs, and deep connections, not just external accomplishments. Recognize that you are worthy even when you're not achieving something. Next is to embrace the power of deep emotional healing. Work on acknowledging and processing emotions rather than suppressing them. Practices like shadow work or deep meditation can help you unlock the emotions you've been holding in. Recognize that healing doesn't make you weaker, it makes you more powerful. And finally, trust that letting go leads to greater stability. Instead of holding on to structures that no longer serve you, trust that release is part of building something better. Let go of old identities, outdated goals, and limiting beliefs that are keeping you from true transformation. Recognize that transformation doesn't take away stability. It creates it in a new form. Remember that true power isn't in control, it's in trust. The more you let go of fear-based control and embrace transformation, the stronger and more aligned you become. You don't have to carry it all alone. You don't have to force change, just allow it. Your stability isn't in resistance, it's in surrender. A powerful release mantra for you is, I surrender control and trust that transformation leads me to my highest potential. I'd love to hear how this resonated, so be sure to drop a comment. And if you haven't already, of course, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your 8th house in Aquarius brings a unique emotional struggle. The fear of losing individuality in deep connections and the need to detach from emotions as a defense mechanism. While Aquarius energy is naturally progressive, unconventional, and intellectual, the 8th house forces you to confront deep emotional wounds tied to control, vulnerability, and transformation. Your biggest challenge revolves around trust, emotional depth, and allowing yourself to be fully seen. Now, some emotional baggage that you carry could be around the fear of losing autonomy in deep emotional bonds. There's a part of you that craves closeness, but another part fears that intimacy will take away your freedom and individuality. You can also carry emotional detachment as a defense mechanism. You've learned to intellectualize your emotions instead of truly feeling them, which can make it difficult to process deep wounds. You may also carry a distrust of deep emotional intensity. You may prefer relationships and experiences that feel rational, open-ended, or detached. But deep down, you may fear losing control if emotions become too intense. You may also carry an aversion to traditional expressions of vulnerability. Unlike other signs who might crave deep emotional merging, you may keep your emotional world private, even from yourself. You may also struggle with transformation. So you may resist emotional and psychological change unless it happens on your own terms. Aquarius energy thrives on freedom and independence, but the 8th house demands depth, emotional intimacy, and surrender. This creates an internal push and pull between needing to connect and fearing the vulnerability that comes with it. Now, this energy can manifest in your life in several ways. In relationships, you may attract unconventional or emotionally detached partners who mirror your own resistance to deep emotional merging. You might disconnect emotionally when things get too intense, leading to misunderstandings or partners feeling like they can't reach you. You may also have trust issues that can make you hesitant to fully open up, fearing that people will limit your personal growth or independence. When it comes to money, you may have an unconventional approach to finances, preferring freedom over stability when it comes to shared money, inheritances, or investments. You might resist financial dependence or merging assets in relationships, feeling more comfortable with financial autonomy. You may be drawn to alternative ways of making money, such as technology, cryptocurrency, or unusual investments. In personal transformation, your healing journey is more intellectual before it's emotional, so you may often analyze your pain rather than feeling it. You may seek freedom and innovation in personal growth, preferring unconventional healing methods over traditional ones. You may avoid emotional confrontation, sometimes disconnecting from deep healing work because it feels too overwhelming. Regarding your fears and subconscious patterns, you may have a fear of being controlled or limited by deep emotions or commitments. You may feel like deep attachment means losing your sense of self. You may have a fear of being truly vulnerable, as you may prefer rational conversations about emotions instead of actually experiencing them. And you may struggle with accepting traditional forms of healing and transformation, feeling like you need to do things your own way. Aquarius energy thrives on progress and detachment, but the 8th house forces you to face the depth of your emotions, your fears of intimacy, and the reality of personal transformation. This tension can make you feel like you're trapped between wanting connection and fearing the loss of self that comes with it. Now, to release and transform this energy, the first step is to embrace vulnerability without fear of losing yourself. Deep connection doesn't mean losing your individuality. It means expanding it. Practice allowing people to truly see you instead of only showing the parts of yourself you feel safe revealing. Start with small acts of emotional vulnerability. Share how you're feeling without filtering or intellectualizing it. Next is to let go of the need to control transformation. Growth doesn't happen on your terms alone. Sometimes real transformation requires surrender. Learn to flow with emotional change instead of resisting it or trying to rationalize it away. Healing isn't always about logic. Sometimes it's about feeling what you've been avoiding. Next is to trust that emotional depth won't trap you. Emotional intimacy doesn't have to be restrictive or suffocating. It can be a safe space to evolve. Start shifting your mindset from closeness means control to closeness means connection. Recognize that allowing emotions to be felt won't take away your strength. It will add to it. Next is to find balance between freedom and emotional depth. Instead of disconnecting when things get deep, try leaning in. Understand that real connection doesn't mean losing yourself. It means allowing yourself to be fully seen. Try expressing emotions in creative or unconventional ways through art, technology, or unique healing methods. And finally, create a ritual for emotional integration. Start your day by affirming, I embrace emotional depth while honoring my individuality. Take 5 minutes daily to check in with your emotions without analyzing them. Just feel them. Journal on the following question. What emotions have I been avoiding, and how can I safely express them? Remember that true freedom isn't in emotional detachment. It's in embracing your emotions without fear of losing yourself. When you balance your visionary mind with deep emotional truth, you become unstoppable. You don't have to disconnect to stay free. You don't have to rationalize every feeling. Some things are meant to be experienced. Your greatest transformation happens when you trust yourself to go deeper. A powerful release mantra for you is, I trust deep transformation and embrace emotional intimacy without fear. I'd love to hear how this resonated for you, so be sure to drop a comment below. And if you haven't already, of course, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with friends that may also benefit from this. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching. Having your 8th house in Pisces brings a unique emotional struggle, the tendency to absorb emotional pain from others, and the difficulty in distinguishing personal emotions from external energies. While Pisces energy is naturally intuitive, compassionate, and spiritually connected, the 8th house forces you to confront deep emotional wounds tied to boundaries, escapism, and surrender. Your biggest challenge revolves around learning to release emotional weight that isn't yours and embracing transformation without fear of losing yourself. The emotional baggage that you carry can be around absorbing the pain of others. So you may have a deep spiritual and emotional sensitivity, which makes you a magnet for other people's pain, trauma, and struggles. So you may often take on emotions that aren't even yours. You may also carry a fear of loss and dissolution. Deep down, you may fear losing yourself in transformation, relationships, or deep emotional experiences. Change can feel overwhelming, making you hesitant to fully surrender to it. You may also carry escapism as a coping mechanism. So instead of confronting deep emotional wounds, you may find yourself escaping into fantasy, spirituality, addictions, or distractions to avoid discomfort. You may also carry baggage of idealizing love, intimacy, or emotional bonds. So you may hold on to romanticized or unrealistic emotional attachments, making it hard to see solutions clearly. And you may also struggle with boundaries. You feel deeply for others, but this can lead to emotional enmeshment, codependency, or difficulty setting limits with draining people. Pisces energy is fluid and boundless, but the 8th house requires deep emotional transformation through letting go and rebirth. Your natural instinct is to flow around pain rather than confront it, making it difficult to fully process and release emotional baggage. Now, this energy can manifest in your life in a few ways. In relationships, you may tend to attract people who need healing, often taking on the role of the emotional savior or rescuer. You may lose yourself in relationships, merging too deeply and sacrificing your own needs. You may have a tendency to fall for illusions, making it hard to see partners clearly or accept when it's time to let go. When it comes to money, your approach to finances can be intuitive rather than structured, sometimes leading to a lack of clarity with money. You may have difficulty setting boundaries in financial matters, such as lending money to others or trusting financial partnerships. There may be a subconscious belief that money and material security aren't spiritual, which can create a disconnect between wealth and self-worth. In personal transformation, You are deeply spiritual and drawn to mystical or intuitive healing, but you may struggle to stay grounded in your healing journey. You may avoid facing deep trauma directly, preferring to process emotions through dreams, symbols, or artistic expression rather than direct confrontation. The eighth house requires death and rebirth, but Pisces resist losing form and identity, making it hard to fully embrace transformation. Regarding your fears and subconscious patterns, you may have a fear of fully letting go. So you may hold on to memories, relationships, or emotions long after they served you. There may be a fear of abandonment or emotional betrayal, leading to hesitation in fully trusting others. And you may also struggle with distinguishing reality from illusion, making it hard to determine what's truly aligned with your growth. Pisces energy wants to flow freely, but the eighth house demands deep emotional processing and surrender. This can create a loop of escapism, romanticizing the past, or carrying emotional burdens that aren't yours. Now, to release and transform this energy, the first step is to strengthen your emotional and energetic boundaries. Recognize that not every emotion you feel is yours. Practice separating your energy from others. Start setting firm boundaries in relationships, especially with those who drain you emotionally. Develop a grounding practice, such as meditation, breath work, or working with protective crystals, such as black tourmaline or obsidian. Next is to stop romanticizing the past and embrace the present. If you find yourself clinging to what could have been, gently bring your focus back to the present. Accept that letting go doesn't mean forgetting, it means freeing yourself to evolve. Write a letter to your past self, thanking them for the lessons, then burn or release it as a ritual of closure. Next is to face your emotions instead of escaping them. When emotions feel overwhelming, resist the urge to numb them with distractions, such as social media, substances, or fantasies. Journaling and shadow work can help you process emotions in a grounded way. Remind yourself, pain is not meant to drown you. It's meant to move through you. Next is to trust that transformation doesn't mean losing yourself. Deep down, you fear change will dissolve your identity, but transformation actually brings you closer to your truth. Learn to trust the cycles of endings and beginnings. You're not meant to remain stagnant. Let go of the belief that healing means losing who you are. Instead, it means returning to your most authentic self. And finally, embrace your intuition while staying grounded. Your spirituality is a gift, but make sure it's used for self-improvement, not escapism. Balance your intuitive wisdom with practical actions that help you move forward. Recognize you don't have to transcend the human experience to heal. Your emotions are part of your journey. Remember that true freedom isn't in escaping reality. It's in embracing your emotions without fear. When you allow yourself to fully feel, process, and release what no longer serves you, you unlock your most powerful transformation. You don't have to carry emotions that aren't yours. You don't have to avoid pain. Healing happens when you move through it. Your intuition is your guide, but grounding is your strength. A powerful release mantra for you is, I release what no longer serves me and trust that true healing leads me to my highest self. I'd love to hear how this resonated for you, so drop a comment below. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends who can also benefit from this info. And for an even more personalized healing journey, be sure to check out my offerings designed just for you. Thanks so much for watching.